who has a spot out there as well. But we actually got to sit down with Pat, long fucking, I don't know, Krzyzewski like name, starts with an M, but Patrick from Sauvage Spectrum. Dude, we knew their wine was great because we've had it here on the Front Range, both in restaurants and buying it from our local proprietors. But he's a cool motherfucker. And so he got us good and faded. And then we ended up running into some friends that live here that were out there for celebrating a birthday weekend. Josie Sexton from the Denver Post, Jordan Blakely from BPR, and then Katie Knock and their partners were all out there. And then they also had another friend who I don't remember as well. I think we had just met, but we know the other three from partying around Denver, and they were kind of on the same path. And so when you have smart people that are heavily entrenched in the food and wine game and you bump into them at 2 or 3 locations, you know you're doing something right. And so it was a lot of fucking fun. And then we went hiking in the farmer's market, but hiking fucking sucks. And probably needed it, but fuck it, hiking sucks.
I know you're not a fan.
The farmer's market was legit. Cherries, peaches. I got you some too, but you're sickly fuck. I'm not dropping them off until you get better. But don't worry, I got some for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then that's kind of the rundown. You know, I'm not trying to give you the whole deep kit and caboodle, but I will say that we were down there while partying for Morgan's birthday. We also did some really casual filming. So we are making a video on Mile High Life that will be showcasing what our weekend was. And I think everybody would understand that there's tons more than what we did, but for doing it for the weekend, we did it right. Y'all, the audio got pretty rough due to Kip's audio situation and Wi-Fi with talking with Chris over Zoom. So we're just going to go ahead and jump into our badass interview of the week. Fret not, it's got great audio and it's a great guest. Here's DJ Paws. And now it's time for our guest interview of the week. I know I'm going to fuck the name up, but since Chris isn't here, you heard earlier, he's got COVID, so he's out. We have Austin Pawelka. God damn it. AKA Paws Music. Probably the biggest DJ in Denver, on the cusp of the biggest dance festival in Denver every year. We have a kick-ass interview with Austin today, but from going forth, we're just going to call you Paws. Is that okay? That's cool. How are you today, brother?
I'm good, man. Our espresso martini just got here. It's going to be even better.
Hell yeah. And that's because we're coming to y'all from the Cooper Lounge this week. Y'all know we like to bip and bop whenever we get the chance, try different cocktails. Well, today, Paul and I were craving espresso martinis and a nice buzz, so we're up here having a good time, enjoying a nice libation and overlooking the Union Station crowd. If you're curious about coming down here and trying them out, they open at 4 o'clock daily, I think, and they run till about 1 a.m. Again, primo espresso martinis. They have snacks and all sorts of refined craft cocktails. So come check them out. 2nd floor of Union Station. Thank you, Lexi, for setting us up. And thank you to our friends over at Eden Extracts. If y'all recall, we joined on with the Eden last month to kind of kick this party off, and we've been talking about them every week since, and that's because they have banger sauce. They're coming to us right out of Parachute, Colorado, so fresh off my recent trip to the Western Slope, that's exactly where they call home. They're using living soil in their greenhouse to churn up some dankness. Whether you're looking for live rosin concentrates, live rosin cartridges, or just some pre-roll flour, maybe infused with a little bit of, surprise, live rosin, Eden Extracts has you covered. They're located across the metro area. You can find them, obviously, at our friends over at Callie's Cannabis, where you can find the Stoned Appetit Dart Pod from Seed and Smith starting this weekend, as well as you can find them at Starbuds and across the metro area. So go check them out, EDUN Extracts, or you can find them on social media, EDUN.co. Woo!
That was impressive.
Thanks.
You had nothing in front of you the entire time.
No.
That was impressive.
I appreciate it. Well, 4 years of doing this, and without Chris here, I can't lean on anybody for a reprieve. So we've got to bring our A game.
Absolutely, man. I love it.
Well, man, I love you, and I appreciate you joining us today. A big fan of your music, been following you through social media as well as you've been gallivanting around the country, playing for fucking sold-out concert venues. But now you're back home, and you have a big-ass festival this week. Before we dive into Global Dance Festival, coming to you all weekend long, Friday, Saturday, check them out. We want to know the nitty-gritty about Paws himself. So, Austin, are you a transplant or a native to Denver?
I am a Colorado native, believe it or not.
Get the fuck out.
There's not many of us left, but I am a native.
What hospital?
I think I'm Children's in Lakewood.
Okay.
West Denver area.
Okay.
Children's
That
Hospital.
the old St. Anthony's?
I believe so. I'd have to ask my mom for sure. But yeah, grew up in Lakewood and Littleton basically my whole life, and moved to Morrison probably in about 6th grade. Split time between parents, and yeah, I grew up in the West Denver metro area, I guess you could say.
So here's a question we like to ask everybody is, did you ever get the wild hair to be like, fuck this place, it's like just meat and potatoes like it was when we were growing up, like obviously different parts, but we're similar aged? Or were you just like, man, no, I love this place, I can't get enough of the Colorado vibe?
I think I went through phases for sure. In the younger years, early high school, I think I definitely saw, outside places in my future besides Colorado. But I think it honestly, as time has progressed and I've kind of matured as, an artist and as just a human being, it's like, you know what, I love the city has now kind of become like a hot spot for like new and young people that want to experience, 300 days of summer, or 300 days not necessarily summer, sunlight, sorry. But yeah, man, I think as I've gotten older, I've started to really love and appreciate where I've grown up a little bit more, for sure.
And one thing, we'll dive into it more, but, your, I guess, work experience, being a DJ in the house, party, we'll get all the verbiage from you. I may be a little too. But it seems like Denver is one of those cities that's kind of the hotbed for, DJ club scenes. While we may not be like fucking LA or Miami, we are a place that's like creating this like buzz, and the crowd is there for it.
Yeah.
So like you kind of got to grow up, being a part of that as that, matured.
Totally.
So did you, and so did the city.
Totally. Yeah, I think growing up, it's kind of a sign of the times now where you see a lot of the people that are transplants coming into Denver and the locals leaving. But I think that our kind of music culture and our kind of electronic-based music crowds here in Denver that were natives, and maybe some of them have left, but they kind of paved the way for the
Next generation?
Yeah, absolutely. Like right now, I think Denver is definitely one of those markets that knows good music, but at the same time, they're very knowledgeable. Like they're not, just kind of put whatever in front of me and that's going to be okay. We kind of have some musical taste when it comes to the bass scene.
Would you, people say it about our food taste, but are we pretentious? Like we're spoiled with having Red Rocks in our backyard, and then like you were saying, the kind of the bass music is kind of, this is a hotbed for it, and then obviously jam band, bluegrass in the mountains, like Telluride is the most coveted spot. Is Colorado a little pretentious in the music? No.
I would say, I wouldn't call us pretentious, but I would call us proud of where we live and the things that we get to kind of go about our day-to-day lives with. I understand what you're saying, though.
We have a higher brow, you can't just be like, oh, this is good music.
Not everything impresses is Colorado.
It took Goose a couple of times through,
Yeah,
Oh.
totally.
Okay, so before we dive into, I guess, the music business, let's talk a little bit about the music scene growing up. What was it that made you kind of want to get into the scene? Was it you fucking around at home playing with Napster and LimeWire? Or how does one go about getting into the DJ scene to the part where, you're selling out fucking venues and shit?
I was very thankful. My dad, who is, if any Colorado native grew up in it or was, into the rave scene in the 90s, I definitely think you probably saw my dad.
Okay.
He was a DJ as well, a house DJ, Tribal Touch. So I got to give him all the the credibility when it comes to finding dance music and kind of exposing me to dance music.
So it's a family business. That's wild. I didn't know that.
Almost 40 years, I think. And, probably somewhere around there, at least 30 years. And kind of having that in the house, in the basement all the time, it was just kind of, it was like nature, you know. It was like home. I'd come home and my dad would be like recording a mix downstairs. And for a while, I think, like I said, in my younger years, I was a little more rebellious and not really focused on music at the time. It was just more like, you know, I was into lacrosse and, you know, into sports.
Kids being kids, just goofing off.
And I think it took me a while to really understand that, like, music was my passion. And, I mean, absolutely the LimeWire and Bear Share and all those were
Dude, the Bear Share with the little orange and yellow logo? God, I killed so many Adele with that.
I have to apologize to my next door neighbor's mom's computer because it definitely is suffering with many diseases from whatever LimeWire created viruses we gave it.
Okay, so this may be dating ourselves here, but did you remember like punters, like on AOL and shit of that nature? Okay, all right. Okay, but you remember ruining many a computer.
And my neighbors, some of my best friends in the world, they actually got in trouble for the pirating of movies back then. So it was like I was scared shitless after he got sent a letter saying that, hey, we know what you're doing, man. So I kind of kept it to a minimum after LimeWire got the axe, and I got that first notification when you tried to download something about all the studios suing LimeWire, but those were good times, man. I wish nowadays there were something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it is weird because there's a initial, like, kind of kickback, or the folks that kind of butted heads with it, like your Garth Brooks and your Metallicas, that everyone's like, oh, they are in the wrong. We just want to be able to stream your music. And then you realize it's like, oh, most of these fuckers are just, like, killing you. You know, like, they're bleeding you if you do accept the deal. So it is interesting, you know? Sorry about that. Yeah, so that's actually a really good point. I wouldn't have thought about that. Yeah. But at the same time, I think everybody that listens to podcasts now, through the people that don't anymore, all are people that put a virus on a computer. Like, it doesn't, I mean, maybe the younger generation, they didn't do as much punters and streaming of illegal music outside of, like, SoundCloud. It pretty much gives you, you know, like the AA, AAA of, you know, before you make your bones with somebody that backs you.
And I mean, like you said, it makes all the sense in the world now. It's like streaming solved all of that. Because, I mean, back then it was just like you wanted to have your favorite songs on your iPod. You know what I mean? You wanted that in your pocket. So
that and a little Pamela Anderson video. Yeah, One Night in Paris. Things like that.
What was the video that I had on my iPod? I think it was. I watched it. Oh, it was Usher Confessions Part 2. That was the video that was on my iPod. The first video I ever bought, and I watched that video probably thousands of times. Huge Usher fan. Huge Usher fan.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so I guess that's my next question. Who are some of the folks that, you know, inspire you? If we had a little of your music playing right now, insert it right here, Zane, 10-minute mark. Who would we say you look to for inspiration? And when you got into the game, you're like, let's start playing with this. And does it start with playing, like, if your original DJ sets are, shout out to Denver Doses, our boy Will, like, does it start with you have to do a wedding and you have to play Whitney Houston, like, Kygo remixes, or can we navigate straight to our own shit instantly and get respected? How does that go about?
I think that's all kind of an art about, you know, reading a crowd, and I think, you know, I owe a lot of my ability to do that to my dad.
So you got a little bit of everything?
Yeah, man, I can, like...
You got some, like, Chopin and some Beethoven?
I don't know.
Chopin, I think is his real name.
Yeah, if you gave me an edit that had an intro and an outro, I could definitely mix in some Beethoven or Chopin.
Really?
Oh, yeah, for sure. You give me a metronome in the middle of one of them, I got you. But it kind of all goes to being like how you can read a crowd. And I mean, you can play some of your own stuff, I guess, when you're playing in bigger crowds. And, you know, it's never easy to play your own music because, I mean, it's scary. And like when you're putting something out to the world like that, it's hard to kind of like in real time judge if people liked it or not, you know, because you could be in your own head and things like that. But you know, my best way of getting around that is just playing it, because like it's not going to do any good sitting on your shelf, you know what I mean? So as far as like the weddings go, I mean, weddings are tough. I don't do many weddings anymore unless it's for like really good friends.
But like, did you ever have to like do the wedding scene?
Oh yeah. Dude.
What did you lean on?
Man, my wedding songs were just classic tunes.